Carbon emissions generated from the Alberta oil sands top out at about 70 megatons yearly, and the NDP have now implemented legislation for a cap at 100 megatons, and they're also charging $30 a ton to producers. They say it's to buy what they call a social license in order to get pipelines built and grow the economy, but let's fact check the Alberta government. The Fraser Institute recently released a report on the carbon cap, and I had a chance to talk to author Ken Green about his findings. First, we talked about the methods used in the report here.
We wanted to look at the 100 megaton cap because it was one of the most concrete elements of the climate leadership plan released by the government of Alberta. And so what we did is we got data from the National Energy Board that projected future growth in oil sands production. And we also got data from them regarding future estimates of the price of oil moving forward. And what we found was that the growth rates the NEB was using at that point, the expected growth rates, Alberta will hit the climate cap, 100 megaton cap, either in 2025, assuming that they have this sort of the continued improvements in efficiency that we're seeing today, or 2027 if they are get more efficient and have less greenhouse gases per barrel of oil. But at that point, no additional production would be allowed, and that means leaving about 2 to 3 billion barrels of oil in the ground.
So what the researchers did using the production projections from the NEB was come up with two different scenarios, one which was based on current emissions and another based on reduced emissions to determine when production would have to be limited. Depending on the scenario used, that would have to happen in 2025 or 27 to meet the NDP's standards. Here, Ken talks about the results and how much revenue would be lost.
The amount of growth that was expected to happen, some 2 to 3 billion barrels of oil additional from 2025 through 2040, gets stuck in the ground, and it's not going to be sold. And when we looked at various prices, the impact of that means that between 150 and 250 billion dollars of possible revenues and profits and royalties won't materialize.
The report also addressed the effect on climate, and it was found that the result of implementing the cap would decrease global temperatures by a very small amount. Here, Ken explains those effects.
It's going to have a largely immeasurable impact on the climate, and yet it's going to come at quite a cost. Our calculations suggest the cost is about $1,000 per ton of greenhouse gas reduced, when you can buy permits to emit a ton of greenhouse gases on various markets now for $30 or less.
And of course, by keeping the oil in the ground, that would come at a huge economic price to Canadians in the way of lost revenue, and would also have an effect on investments. Here, Ken discusses this further.
Particularly for Alberta, what it means is it's very hard to see under this cap that investment returns to the province in terms of the oil sands, because if they're only going to be able to operate till 2025, why are you going to invest in a 30 and 40-year project if you know you're going to cut off it's going to be 2025, 2027? So that's one implication. The other implication is that Canada as a whole will lose literally hundreds of billions of dollars that would be spread throughout not just Alberta, but through the entire service sector for the oil patch, and that goes across Canada. So it's a lot of lost money, it's a lot of lost jobs, it's a lot of lost opportunity, and it's a lot of lost investment for virtually no gain.
According to the report issued by the Fraser Institute, the NDP's carbon cap won't actually have a significant effect on reducing global temperatures, and it will come at a cost to Albertans and Canadians. The NDP also talk about getting a social license, but as we've seen throughout the last months, the Northern Gateway pipeline proceedings have been shut down indefinitely due to court battles involving First Nations groups. And now the Energy East pipeline hearings have been shut down to violent protesters disrupting those processes. Let's face it, there's no such thing as a social license that can be bought under the guise of climate change prevention. And paying into it is coming at a cost to Albertans and Canadians. For the Rebel.media, I'm Holly Nicholas.
Thanks for watching. Click here to never miss a Rebel update. Want even more of the Rebel? Well, click here to become a premium member.